All right, welcome into the Chiefs Zone podcast. My name is Farzin Vasugian. Happy Monday. Hope you're all having a great Monday, a great start to your week. It is a victory Monday. First time we've been able to say that here on the Chiefs Zone podcast this season. Hope you're all doing well. Welcome in. Let's relax. Let's have some fun. Let's chat about some Chiefs football here on this episode of the Chiefs Zone podcast. Want to let you know this podcast is brought to you by SeatGeek. SeatGeek is where I go to for all of my sports ticketing needs, whether it's Chiefs, college football, KU, K-State, Mizzou. That is the best place to go to get all of your tickets to catch football in person. And if you're a new SeatGeek customer, when you select your tickets at checkout, you can use my promo code FARZIN and you will save $20 off your first purchase from SeatGeek. Go to SeatGeek.com, pick your tickets, and at checkout, new customers can enter my promo code FARZIN and save $20 off their first order from SeatGeek. All right, let's get into it. We've got a lot of things on the docket for tonight's podcast. There is some news regarding Xavier Worthy. Will he play this weekend? There's one pundit that has an inside information on this. And I think it's worth talking about the wide receivers a little bit as well. We got to discuss some of the early concerns about the Kansas City Chiefs right now, which involve Xavier Taylor, Harrison Butker, and Travis Kelce. I'll tell you guys which ones I'm concerned about the most. And I think you guys know which one that is. All of that here on this episode of the Chiefs Zone podcast. If we have a little bit of time in the end, I'll go over some of my NFL Week 3 thoughts. I know right now we have Detroit and Baltimore. They are about to square off, so that'll be going on while we're doing this podcast here. So you guys can watch that while listening to this. However, you guys consume the podcast. It is greatly appreciated to have you guys on tonight. Little time to waste. Like I said, a lot of things to go over here, so let's get right into it. There is some news earlier today, Monday afternoon. Nick Wright, who, of course, spent many years here in Kansas City working in, well, I shouldn't say many years, but spent some time in Kansas City, quickly built his way up in the sports media world. But of course, was here in 610 Sports Radio, went to Houston for a bit and made it to the national level and has been with Fox Sports for quite some time. On his show this afternoon, first things first, he said that Xavier Worthy will play against the Baltimore Ravens. And he said it with absolutely no hesitation, almost like he had some sort of an inside source on this. To read you the exact quote, he said he will be playing against Baltimore. And they were talking about how, you know, they were expecting him to play last night, but didn't. And he went on to finish his statement about Worthy. Says he's going to play against Baltimore. He seems really confident in saying that. And listen, I know Nick's well connected with the organization. That's not a shocker to anybody. Here's my question about Worthy, because of all the shoulder concerns and the reports of the torn labrum and all of that. And I know there were some articles out there talking about how George Kittle had played through a torn labrum before. And listen, I'm not questioning Xavier Worthy's toughness or anything. I think a lot of people feel like he's not a tough guy because of his size and he's smaller, maybe the smallest guy in the NFL right now, especially at the wide receiver position. But I just have some concerns here. And listen, let's be honest. The Chiefs have mishandled some injuries in the past. We know about Hollywood Brown last year, McCole Hardman a couple of years before that, because people kept asking, why is McCole Hardman not coming back? And we later learned some of the details when McCole Hardman came back for a second stint in Kansas City. And the Eric Berry injury back in 2018, when we were told he's day-to-day, but didn't play until week 15 that year. He was out of action since week 1 of the 2017 season. So I always have my reservations. I try not to get too excited about these things because there has been talk. Does he need surgery? Is he going to be out for longer than this? Because the original report came from Ian Rappaport after week 1 that he had dislocated his shoulder and that he was going to be out for 4 to 6 weeks, was expected to come back around the same time as Rashee Rice from his suspension. But it appears that he's not expected to miss too much time. There were some reports last week during week 2 that Worthy would possibly suit up for week 3 against the Giants. Obviously, that didn't happen. He did not travel with the Chiefs to New York for this game, but there's a lot of expectation that, at least from Nick Wright, that he will play this Sunday against Baltimore, which would be huge if he's in a place where he's fully healthy and ready to go. And that's the other thing, too, is he going to be 100%, being able to go full speed? Is he going to look like the Worthy we saw during the second half of last season? How bad is that shoulder? How well is he going to be able to hold up while he's in the game? If he does play on Sunday, where will he be essentially? Is he going to be on any kind of a snap count? Those are some things that I'm curious about when considering seeing Xavier Worthy out there. Listen, I want Xavier Worthy out there. I'm sure Patrick Mahomes wants Worthy out there. We all want to see Xavier Worthy back on the field for the Kansas City Chiefs, especially right now with the fact that you are already down a wide receiver and Rashee Rice. Jalen Royals has yet to play. He was available last night, but did not play. And I'll get into that in a moment because I know a lot of people were asking, why didn't we see Jalen Royals Sunday night for the Chiefs? And then you look at last year, Hollywood Brown and Rashee Rice missed a bunch of games last year. So being able to get these receivers back and having them play together at the same time, and we're all waiting patiently for that trio of Hollywood Brown, Xavier Worthy, and Rashee Rice to play together. And with Tyquan Thornton's, little surge going on lately, that just makes things more exciting for this offense. Again, if everyone can stay healthy by the time Rice comes back, because then that's when this offense can really start to rock and roll. But for now, it's a good thing you have Tyquan Thornton, who's certainly stepped up the last couple of weeks when the team really needed it the most. He's been good so far. He really has been. His best game statistically in terms of your receiving yards was his rookie year, 3 catches, 60 yards. I think that was against Miami back when he was a Patriot. He had 59 yards last week against Philly, one shy of his career best, single game best. And then Sunday night against the Giants, 71 yards, the best he's had in his career. Dude, Tyquan Thornton's been a lot of fun to watch. And obviously he had that nice little grab of, 33 yards with Drew Phillips, the quarterback for the Giants, just draped all over him. And when he went down to the ground, holding that finger up, I don't know what that was about, but I mean, I made a joke earlier. He was acknowledging Roman Reigns. For all you wrestling fans, you guys know what that means. But boy, Tyquan Thornton has been a lot of fun to watch. And I want to talk about that play specifically, the one he had of 33 yards against Drew Phillips, because the play before that, Mahomes perfectly located it to Thornton, and he was just unable to come up with it. He pulled it in. At least we thought he held on to it. And as he's falling down, he's on his way to the end zone because nobody had touched him or tackled him to the ground. So the referees originally called it a touchdown, and I was excited because I thought he got his second touchdown of the game, his third in the first 3 weeks of the season. And replay assist stepped in, and they noted that he dropped it, and I was just so bummed out. But Patrick Mahomes, he said, no problem. Going to throw it right back to him on the very next play, and that's what we saw, the 33-yard catch there with Drew Phillips covering him very closely on that play. So the Chiefs trust Tyquan Thornton quite a lot right now. And let's go back to a couple of games before against the Chargers in Brazil, where Mahomes and Thornton, they were trying to connect earlier in the game, unable to. Mahomes misfired, overthrew him on a couple of plays earlier, and eventually they connected on a play before the second half. That allowed the Chiefs to get a field goal before halftime. And then against the Philadelphia Eagles, when the Chiefs were down by, I think, 10 points, Tyquan Thornton, he went out there, made a big play. They had, again, not been able to connect on a couple of plays before that. But Mahomes, he kept trying, kept going back to Thornton. Trusted the process, despite, not being able to get it to him and overthrowing him a couple of times. I think they're starting to get a rhythm down together. Mahomes and Thornton, that is. And I think it's going to help even more when you get Jalen Royals involved, who did not play a snap in Sunday night's game. And Andy Reid talked about this, that he's a rookie. It was his first game available. Listen, you know the Chiefs will get him going. They're not going to let their 4th round draft pick just sit in the wayside, especially right now when Rice is still unavailable. I know Nick Wright is saying that Worthy's going to play. Let's just say Worthy does play. We're not expecting him to play a majority of the snaps at the wide receiver position, I would imagine. So, you have to get Royals involved. And I would imagine that this Sunday against Baltimore, that's when Royals will play some snaps. Obviously, Rashee Rice is suspended for now. So the fact that you have Thornton stepping up, this is something the Chiefs absolutely needed. And I've said this before. I think New England's going to really regret letting him go. And listen, the things that happened in New England the last couple of years are not Tyquan Thornton's fault. They're not. They're absolutely not. I mean, that was just a bad football team the last couple of years. Belichick actually reached out to Andy Reid and said that this was a good addition for the Chiefs. And listen, I know Belichick right now struggling in his last couple of years in New England, struggling right now in North Carolina, but the guy still knows talent. I mean, he's won 8 Super Bowls, 6 of them as a head coach. So when you're getting that vote of approval from Belichick of all people, you're making the right move. I was excited when the Chiefs grabbed him last year and put him on the practice squad. The Chiefs knew what they were doing. They had him on the practice squad and wanted him to learn the offense while being on scout team, and they gave him an opportunity in training camp. And he looked really good in training camp. I got for those who followed me in training camp, you guys saw the content and the clips I was putting out there from Chiefs practices. Anytime I put anything about Tyquan Thornton, I got a bunch of Patriots fans in the comments, in the replies, basically shaming Thornton, shaming the Chiefs for even giving Thornton a chance. Where are those Patriots fans right now? Because what Patriots fans were trying to warn Chiefs fans about with Thornton, I'm not seeing that right now. If you do, let me know, because right now I have no idea what Patriots fans what message they were trying to send about that. Because the way things are looking right now, Tyquan Thornton looking like a steal. And somebody joked about this last night. Maybe not joked about this, but still brought it up. And I think it's kind of a nice way of viewing it. Because who did the Chiefs draft at the wide receiver position in 2022? They drafted Sky Moore. And look at who else was drafted in the second round from that same draft. Tyquan Thornton went to the New England Patriots. I'm trying to look at the second round. So the Patriots did select. Now the Chiefs did trade down, but Tyquan Thornton went to the Patriots. Oh, oddly enough, I think the Chiefs did have the 50th pick at one point from Miami, because it does say on when you look at the 2022 draft list here, from Miami via Kansas City. So yeah, the Chiefs did have that pick at one point, oddly enough. The Chiefs did have the 54th pick. They swapped it with New England. So yeah, they could have taken Tyquan Thornton. Instead, they went with Sky Moore. They also had an opportunity to take George Pickens as well. Listen, I'll say this right now. If you want to compare Tyquan Thornton and Sky Moore, and I'm going to include the playoffs as well, in both Sky Moore's career as a Chief and Tyquan Thornton's career as a Chief, they have the same number of touchdowns. Sky Moore scored 2 touchdowns for the Chiefs. One of them was that corn dog play against the Eagles in Super Bowl 57, and the other one was in 2023, week 2 against the Jaguars. He's only had a couple of touchdowns to the point where I can remember when both of them took place. Everyone remembers the corn dog play. A lot of you guys may not remember the Jacksonville game. That was a low-scoring game. Tyquan Thornton, he has the same number of touchdowns as Sky Moore in the span of 2 games. Now, he's played 3, but in these last 2 weeks, he's gotten a touchdown in each one of them. The same amount as Sky Moore in his first, 3 years with the Chiefs? And I've talked about this a lot with Sky Moore and how Rashee Rice, a year later, also taken in the second round. Moore and Rice, they're both second-round picks. Moore has 1 more year of experience, but Rice just had a far better grasp of the offense than Sky Moore did. But listen, no big deal. I mean, that entire 2022 draft class was a great one. Couple of misses here and there, like Sky Moore, Darian Kennard, who was a fifth round pick. You can't really call that a miss, but still, the Chiefs got a lot of great players from that draft class. So at the end of the day, it's not that big of a deal. But boy, the way Tyquan Thornton's played, it's right now the biggest topic in Kansas City on this Monday. And I'm glad he's a Chief, and I'm excited to see more of that. I did take a moment to look up his contract. I actually looked it up a couple of days ago. He's on a 1-year deal, I think worth $1.1 million. I'm double checking on that right now. But yeah, that's correct. Yeah, 1 year, $1.1 million. Man, I don't want to see that guy in another team's uniform. I want that guy to wear that red and gold for a few more years. Because man, with that speed and skill set, he can do some good things for you. And look, this is a long ways away. Not worth going into that too much right now. But I will say Hollywood Brown's on a 1-year deal. I think there's some serious consideration that Tyquan Thornton might replace Hollywood Brown moving forward. Maybe they both come back. I don't know. That would not be, I'm not opposed to that at all. Listen, good depth for the wide receiver room, certainly needed, especially when Rice and Worthy are still on rookie deals. But man, if Tyquan Thornton has a really good season, he might be an expensive player to re-sign. We'll see how that goes. But for now, this is a player who's making waves right now for your offense when you really needed it the most. Let's talk about some of the Chiefs' concerns on this team. I think Travis Kelce and some of the sideline behavior, maybe that's a concern right now. Harrison Butker, certainly a concern. But I will say, I don't think Travis Kelce is an issue. There's a difference between a concern and an issue. Travis Kelce is a concern right now with maybe, his temper in some games. Harrison Butker, some of the misses he has, that's a concern. But I'm not ready to call it an issue yet. One big issue the Chiefs have right now is their right tackle, Jawaan Taylor. And look, I know Andy Reid, he's always wanting to give guys the best amount of chance. I mean, Andy Reid always wants to give guys opportunities. You screw up, hey, he'll give you another chance. But when is enough with Jawaan Taylor? 7 penalties on the season so far. That's the most through 3 weeks. He's had 50 since 2023, the year he joined the Chiefs. That is the most in the NFL. Listen, I get it. He's making $27 million this year, but regardless of what his contract is, you know what he is right now. Forget about how much Jawaan Taylor is making. But I do want to talk about how much Jalen Moore is making. Jalen Moore, who, by the way, played 10 snaps at left tackle in Sunday night's game against the Giants, he's making $15 million a year. The Chiefs signed him to a 2-year deal worth $30 million this offseason. And I understand there was a little bit of an unexpected surprise in the draft when Josh Simmons fell to Kansas City. So the Chiefs traded down one spot to get him. And Jalen Moore turned into a depth player for you. When you look at training camp, Jawaan Taylor was unavailable for the first few weeks, the first few days of training camp. So Jalen Moore stepped in there and played right tackle for the Chiefs until Taylor came back. Jalen Moore also played a little bit of left guard. And listen, Kingsley Suamataia, he's certainly had his inconsistencies. I thought last night he had his best game as a left guard for the Chiefs. Still some room to improve for Kingsley. But Jawaan Taylor is the issue. And in fact, he's honestly become a frustration and a headache for Kansas City's offense. I know he only committed 1 penalty Sunday night. But here's the thing. They're starting to add up. And not only that, it's when he's committing these penalties that are an issue for Kansas City. So, for instance, in Sunday night's game, on second down, Patrick Mahomes trying to throw that screen pass attempt to Noah Gray, and the Giants defense all over it, tackling Noah Gray for a loss. That ended up being 3rd and 12. And listen, we all know the odds of converting on third and long, anything more than 3rd and 10, when you lose yards, whether it's a play behind the line of scrimmage or a penalty, the odds are usually not in your favor. That's fair to say. More times than not, defenses get a stop. But Patrick Mahomes going out there, scrambling and getting a first down, and it gets called back. And at that point, it's 3rd and 17. What did I just tell you guys 15 seconds ago? The odds of you converting on 3rd and anything more than 10 are usually not in your favor. And yeah, a couple of you guys are mentioning this in the comments. Yeah, he had one that was called. Should have been called for a couple more false starts, but wasn't. I think the referees just feel bad for him at this point because they know he's screwing up. Because on the following drive, he was just getting destroyed by Brian Burns. Brian Burns just ran over him like a truck and was chasing Patrick Mahomes. Look, I've said this many times. I have no problem with the Chiefs wanting to spend money at the offensive line. The Chiefs have spent more money than any team at the offensive line, which is crazy because they've got 2 guys on rookie deals in Josh Simmons and Kingsley Suamata-Ia. They're paying Creed Humphrey the most money a center's ever gotten. Same with Trey Smith at the guard position. Juwan Taylor has a big fat contract at right tackle, which you can't get out of until after this offseason, or after this season, going into the 2026 offseason, excuse me. So in the meantime, you're sort of stuck with him, except you're not really stuck. I mean, I get it. He's making a lot of money this year, but you don't have to play him if he's a liability for you. Listen, I think this guy's gotten plenty of chances for Kansas City. 2023, people felt like he was being picked on because Chris Collinsworth made such a big deal about him lining up the way he was lining up. Well, eventually, they started to crack down on other offensive linemen doing the same thing. And now you see him. Listen, NBC had a graphic ready for illegal formation. I mean, that's how, like, NBC, and listen, good on NBC and the broadcast team there, the producers, everyone responsible for that. That's what a good broadcast does. And at the end of the day, again, I know it's just one penalty from Sunday night, but they're adding up. He has 7 on the season. That's the most in the league, offensive and defensive players, like everyone. 50 since 2023. Again, the most of any player since joining the Kansas City Chiefs. Coaches go nuts when guys commit penalties. It drives them crazy. When you're not able to do the fundamentals and you're committing a lot of penalties, coaches hate that. This guy's committed more penalties for you than any other player since 2023. So my question is, when is enough enough? When are the Kansas City Chiefs going to look at this and say, yeah, not only is he inconsistent with his pass blocking, and listen, I'll address this quickly. He's had some good moments as a pass blocker. He has. But a lot of that is overshadowed with these penalties here. And he's had a couple of penalties that have nullified touchdowns for the Chiefs as well. One that comes to mind right away, not that this was a difference maker, but the one to Rashee Rice in the playoffs against Miami. Now, again, that was a blowout win, so that wasn't anything too terrible for Kansas City. It's not like it hurt the Chiefs at the end of the day, but you never want to risk it. You never want touchdowns to be nullified because of a penalty you committed, especially in the postseason. But 50 in 2023, I mean, how is Jalen Moore not on here? I've been saying the last few weeks, especially during training camp, Jalen Moore's on speed dial. He's got to be ready to go in at any point. Now, he did go in last night when the game was out of reach for the Giants, getting some snaps at left tackle. I would imagine the Chiefs, and Andy Reid addressed this, saying that there was nothing wrong with Josh Simmons, no injury, nothing about that. They just wanted to get some work in there for Jalen Moore. Probably to see how he's looking at left tackle, as a left tackle, and see if they can convert him to right tackle moving forward. Because Kansas City needs a better right tackle right now. Because I don't know if your best option on the team is Juwan Taylor. Again, he has some good moments as a pass blocker, but for the amount of money he's making and the number of penalties he's committing, this is not worth the headache anymore. This is hurting your football team. Listen, you started the season 0-2. That's already bad enough. You're playing catch up in the AFC West at the moment. And we'll see if the Chiefs can catch up to the Chargers. They've got a really big lead in the division right now, 3-0, and all three of those wins are against division rivals. You don't need any more issues holding you back. This can hold the Chiefs back if they allow him to continue doing this. Because here's the thing, like at some point, you can't be mad at Jawaan Taylor because this is who he is. Is that not right? Like, it'd be a little bit silly to expect him to improve on this because he's had plenty of chances. He's been on this team for more than 2 years now. This is his third year on the team. So if he was going to show any kind of improvement, I think he would have shown that by now, and he hasn't. Now, the Chiefs are probably going to give him more opportunities, but for how long? Because you're playing a really tough Baltimore team this Sunday. And you know Baltimore is going to want to beat Kansas City, especially with the number of times the Chiefs have beaten them in recent memory, especially last year by a toenail. So that needs to change. This is not a concern. This is a big issue. And I'm hoping Andy Reid is strongly considering putting in Jalen Moore, because if not, you have no one to blame but yourself if Jalen Moore costs you a game, or I'm sorry, Jawaan Taylor costs you a game, commits a penalty in a really crucial moment. You don't want to ever find yourself in that position, especially when you know you're going to be involved in a lot of close games. You never want to see your season end because of something like that. So hopefully the Chiefs are strongly considering that switch to Jalen Moore sooner rather than later. Derrick Henry ties it up. So, well, pending a PAT, not guaranteed this week. You know that. But yeah, Lions scored first, and the Ravens looking to tie it. They're both 1-1, Lions and the Ravens. Someone's going to go 1-2. I heard this earlier. What if the Ravens and the Chiefs playing on Sunday? What if they're both 1-2 at that point? That would be a really interesting matchup all of a sudden. Second week in a row, the Chiefs would be playing a team in which their opponent has the exact same record. That would certainly make for, and this would be a much bigger deal because despite both teams starting the season 1-2, if that is going to be the case, you know they're both going to make the playoffs. But man, Jeremy says Derrick Henry is never going to get old. Man, Derrick Henry's so fun to watch. He really is. And listen, I know there was so much hate and criticism around Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson's fun to watch too. He really is. But man, Tennessee, like I thought they were led by a great coach in Mike Vrabel. And I think Mike Vrabel is going to get the Patriots turned around. But boy, that Titans team, Derrick Henry did so many good things for them. And I thought it was cool that the Titans were able to get the number 1 seed, I think in 2021 without Derrick Henry when he missed a lot of time due to injury. And then he came back for the playoffs. Unfortunately, they lost. But man, Derrick Henry's just a fun football player to watch. That dude is tough. He's the same age as Kareem Hunt. I think 30 years old. I get the running back position is far different today than 15, 20 years ago. But boy, I mean, I think in terms of overall talent, Derrick Henry is the most talented running back in league history. If he ever got the opportunity to play as many snaps as Emmitt Smith, I think his numbers would be better than his, but that's just my opinion. All right, let's get into Harrison Butker because he's gotten off to a bit of a rough start here in the early stages of the 2025 season. And let me just start off by saying this, because I put a post out there earlier this morning, and I think some people decided not to read the entire post. It wasn't that long of a post. But I did say that, you know, there is a concern with Butker. And I also question, is there an injury that we just don't know about? Sometimes this happens where, and you learn about it in the offseason, that a player was dealing with some sort of an injury and they played through it and it was never mentioned publicly on the injury report or any of that. But Harrison Butker has gotten off to a slow start, and we know he had that meniscus surgery last year. He missed 4 games. I am concerned with Harrison Butker, but I'm not concerned to the point where I think this is an issue or a problem, at least not yet. And I also said this morning that I do trust that he'll get it right. And Andy Reid said the exact same thing today, that he'll get it correct. But for now, reviewing Harrison Butker's performance through 3 games, he's 7 of 9. He missed a 58-yard field goal against Philadelphia in week 2, and he missed a 40-yard field goal against the Giants on Sunday night this past week. He's also 3 of 5 in PATs. Now, one of those PAT misses came from 48 yards because they penalized Kareem Hunt for unsportsmanlike conduct. So that backed up the Chiefs, and they had to attempt a really long PAT, and that ended up going wide left. So he's missed 2 PATs this season. Let me just remind you something about Harrison Butker, because this guy's made some massive kicks in the playoffs for Kansas City. He made the game-tying field goal in Super Bowl 58 to force overtime. He made the game-winning 27-yard field goal in Super Bowl 57 after missing one earlier in the game. Now, I know what some of you guys are going to say. A 29-yarder to tie in Super Bowl 58 and force overtime, and a 27-yarder to win in Super Bowl 57. I mean, those are chip shot field goals. Yes, they are chip shot field goals, but I don't care how short range those field goal attempts were. We're talking about winning the Super Bowl in one of them and tying it a year later. Like, the amount of pressure in that moment, especially Super Bowl 58, because if you don't make that field goal, the game's over. San Francisco wins that game. But he came through connecting on both of them. Now, 2 weeks before Super Bowl 57, what did he do? He made the game-winning 45-yard field goal in the AFC Championship game to beat the Bengals after the Chiefs had lost to them in the exact same spot 364 days before that in overtime. And to prevent overtime, Harrison Butker came through with that big 45-yard field goal thanks to a nice return from Sky Moore. And then shortly after that, the hit out of bounds from Joseph Osai to give the Chiefs 15 more yards. And that allowed Butker to attempt a 45-yard field goal to win the game, because a lot of people thought it was going to overtime at that point. Now, he's made another big-time field goal in the playoffs. Don't forget the 13-second game. Now, everyone remembers that for the amount of scoring, the number of touchdowns that took place. Nobody ever talks about the game-tying field goal in this one. Butker made a game-tying 49-yard field goal to complete that 30-second window in the end of regulation to force overtime. He doesn't make that. We don't have that epic ending. It still would have been a great game, but it would have been talked about how Josh Allen went in there and threw not 1 but 2 touchdowns inside 2 minutes at Arrowhead Stadium. Instead, it ended up going the other direction, where the Chiefs tied it at 13 with 13 seconds left on the clock. 2023, Butker by far had his best year, making 33 of 35 field goals, made all 38 PATs. I mean, that was just a remarkable year for Butker. Last year, he was 21 of 25, missed 2 of his 31 PATs, and missed 4 games because of the knee injury I mentioned earlier. And listen, he's done a lot of really good things in his career. 36 of 40 field goals made in the playoffs. Those 36 field goals, the 4th most field goals made in playoff history by kickers. Most career field goals in a Super Bowl with 9. He has the longest field goal made in Super Bowl history, making a 57-yarder. Because remember, in Super Bowl 58, Jake Moody, the rookie at the time for the 49ers, he had the record for longest field goal in Super Bowl history, and then Butker stole it from him 30 minutes later. Not the first time Butker's stolen a record in a short time span. If you remember, in 2022, Matthew Wright was filling in for Butker because he had that foot injury. I can't remember if it was a foot or ankle, but it was an injury of some sort. So Butker had to miss some time. Matthew Wright went in there on Monday Night Football and made a 59-yard field goal against the Raiders on Monday Night Football. That was the longest field goal made in Chiefs history. 6 days later, Butker took that record away, making a 62-yard field goal. He also has the most field goals made by a rookie, making 38 in 2017. And if you recall, Butker was not on the team to start the season. He was on Carolina's practice squad. I think he joined the Chiefs for their 4th or 5th game of the season. So he didn't even get to play a full season, and he broke the record for most field goals by a rookie in a season. So he's done a lot of great things for you. Do these issues need to be patched? I apologize. Not an issue, a concern. Because I said earlier, there's a difference between a concern and an issue. But these mishaps happening right now with Butker absolutely need to be patched. Because here's the thing. I acknowledge, okay, one of them was a 58-yard field goal. He also had a PAT that he was forced to attempt from long range. But here's the thing with Butker on that. You already know you're getting every team's best shot, being a part of the Kansas City Chiefs football team. You're going to be involved in a lot of close games, and the Chiefs have been. Their 2 losses were both close games. And Butker missing the PAT and against the Chargers, it prevented them from being able to tie the game. And then, there was an opportunity to have a tie game in the 4th quarter against Philly if Butker made the kick. And I'll acknowledge this too. If the PAT is made in week 1, if the field goal that he attempted early on in the game, if that was made as well, maybe the trajectory of the game changes a little bit. But, when you add up the misses at the end of the day, it does prevent a couple of ties against the Chargers and against the Eagles. But here's my biggest thing with Harrison Butker, because I just gave you his resume and all the things he's accomplished. Not only do I trust that Butker will get back on track and be more consistent, but I trust him in the 4th quarter of a big game that comes down to the wire. Because let me ask you guys this. When has Harrison Butker failed the Chiefs when needing to win or tie a game in the waning stages of any football game? When has he ever missed in the 4th quarter? Regular season or postseason? I can't think of one right now. Maybe his rookie year, he might have missed one in the 4th quarter of a game. And if it was, maybe it was like with 12 minutes left. And don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to dismiss the importance of that, but those aren't, talked about as much compared to misses made or makes made in the last 2 minutes of a game. But my thing is, Butker has not failed the Chiefs when they really need him to come through to win or tie a game. Have they not? Because I didn't mention the AFC Championship game. I mean, I alluded to the one where the Chiefs lost to the Bengals. Despite the collapse and everything that happened there, and the Chiefs unable to finish that drive with a touchdown, Harrison Butker did make that field goal to force overtime. Again, I think it was a chip shot field goal from what I recall, but still, it's the AFC Championship game. You're 1 game away from the Super Bowl, and you've got to make this to at least give your team a chance in overtime, which he did. And if you don't, the Bengals would have won in regulation. Now, the Bengals went on to win that game anyway in overtime, not because of Butker, but at least he gave the Chiefs a chance. That's all you can ask for from Harrison Butker. And to me, that's the most important thing here. I do trust Butker can get back into that form unless he has a nagging injury that we just don't know about. That's not being made public. Because again, Butker's done a lot of really good things for you. And Andy Reid, he's obviously giving his vote of confidence, saying that he's going to get those correct. You've got one of the best special teams coordinator of all time in Dave Toub. And I know Toub will have his press conference on Thursday, and he'll be asked about this as well. And I'm sure he will give a vote of confidence also and say that Butker is going to right the ship and get on track. So, yes, this is a concern, but I'm not ready to call it an issue yet. I do trust that Butker, especially given that what he's proven in the past, he'll get it right. And if the Chiefs need a game-winning field goal from him in the 4th quarter this Sunday against the Ravens, I trust Butker to make that kick. 100% I trust Butker to make that kick. Okay, we got to talk about Travis Kelce because this is being talked about a lot by a lot of people. Right now, when you look at Travis Kelce, what are people talking about? The sideline meltdowns, the frustration that Kelsey has shown in some games this year, and also that really big drop that went off his hands for an interception against Philadelphia at the goal line. That's what everyone's talking about with Travis Kelsey through the first 3 weeks. But what people are not recognizing with Kelsey, he's playing better this year than he did last year through the first 3 games. And let me explain to you. 2024, in the first 3 weeks, against Baltimore, Cincinnati, and Atlanta, he had 8 catches for 69 yards, averaging almost a little more than 8.5 yards per catch, no touchdowns. His longest catch was 23 yards. In 2025, playing the Chargers in Brazil, playing the Eagles at home, and playing the Giants on the road, Kelsey has 10 catches, 2 more than last year. He has 134 yards. He's averaging almost 13.5 yards per catch and has a touchdown. His longest catch is 37 yards. And in fact, I think that's the 37-yard catch and run touchdown he had against the Chargers. So in terms of catches, yards per catch, touchdowns, and the longest catch he's had through the first 3 weeks, all of them better this year than last year through the first 3 games. Now, again, I know he's had some heated moments, getting in Jawaan Taylor's face, tossing the helmet, saying he's sick of this shit. The exchange he had with Andy Reid Sunday night. And, of course, the ball going off his hands for an interception against Philly. I know that's what everyone's talking about. And let me add this as well, because obviously Kelsey, I mean, he's been a big figure for a while in the NFL, even bigger now because of his relationship with Taylor Swift. A lot of people are watching games because of Travis Kelsey now. There's always a camera following Travis Kelsey. When I was a college student at KU, one of my broadcasting instructors was well connected with the broadcast crews that were coming into Lawrence for basketball games and football games. And he mentioned, hey, if any of you guys want extra credit, the broadcast team could use a camera operator, and all you're doing is following Bill Self, because you guys see it in basketball games and other sporting events as well, where it's not just the game they're showing. It's not just the players they're showing. They'll show reactions from the coaches, from other players on the sidelines. So when you watch a football game, when you watch a Chiefs game specifically, there is a camera that probably follows Travis Kelsey's every single move from the moment he comes out of the tunnel for pregame all the way until the game's over and he leaves the field. Travis Kelsey is watched and followed very closely by cameras. And unfortunately, we've seen a lot of moments where Travis Kelsey has just gotten frustrated in games. So because they're always going to be following Kelsey, and I would not be surprised if it's multiple cameras following Travis Kelsey, these broadcast crews have made a point to show some of the meltdowns. And I'd be very curious to see if Kelsey addresses that in his podcast this week. I don't think he mentioned the incident last week where he tossed his helmet and said he said, "I'm sick of this shit." But at the end of the day, I get it. You know, Andy Reid was talking about this even before the media could ask a question. Andy Reid just kind of, preemptively answered it and said, Kelsey knows what's expected and just wants things to be better. And listen, I think part of the frustration is Sunday night against the Giants, they're calling a bubble screen to Travis Kelsey. Why? Like, who from the Chiefs coaching staff thought that was a good idea? Like, you don't have to be a coach or a scout to know that's a terrible call. I mean, unless the defense is unprepared and not paying attention whatsoever, that play's not going to work for a 36-year-old tight end. But look at the second half of Sunday night's game. That's the best half of football the Chiefs played, offensively and defensively. And I get it. It's the Giants. It's nothing to write home about, but still, that's what you're supposed to look like. And did you see Travis Kelsey throwing his helmet, being frustrated, yelling at Andy Reid, Jawaan Taylor, or whoever? No, you didn't see that. No, I think the offense, they try to stay humble because they know they have a lot to work on. But in the second half, when Chris Jones got that sack on Russell Wilson, dude, you saw him and George Karlaftis celebrating, showing some excitement afterwards. That's the most amount of happiness I had seen on the field between two players on the same team for Kansas City this year. Because we saw the Drew Tranquil and the Chris Jones thing. I mean, listen, this team does not start off 0-1 or 0-2 very often. They started 0-1 in 2023. They started 0-2 this year, obviously. They started 1-2 in 2021. Other than that, this Chiefs team has had a lot of great starts, even before Patrick Mahomes got here. The Chiefs in 2013, 2017, 2018, maybe last year, the Chiefs many times have been the last team to lose a game. So for them to lose the first 2 weeks, certainly something they're not used to. And I think maybe that's part of the frustration, not just from Travis Kelce, but you saw it from Chris Jones, you saw it from Drew Tranquil. There certainly has been some frustration there. And look, I guess I'd rather see the frustration than them not giving a damn. But at the end of the day, this is a football team that knows what it takes to win. I mentioned before the 2021 start, they started 1-2, and eventually that turned into a 3-4 start. That fourth loss that created the 3-4 record, they got whooped by the Titans. I think the score was 24-3. It could have been 40-3. And a lot of people wrote off Kansas City. The Raiders were leading the division, I think, with a 5-2 record at the exact same moment. Who won the division that year? The Chiefs. They went on to win 8 straight. They reached the AFC Championship game that year. They've made it every year since Mahomes has been a starter for this team. So I think a lot of people listen, I see all the comments. People are frustrated with Kelce, with Taylor, with Butker. I don't think Kelce and Butker are issues right now. I don't think they're problems. There are concerns with those two. Kelce, not necessarily from a performance standpoint, maybe just more so just trying to stay cool and level-headed. And for Butker, just needs to be more consistent and not miss those kicks, especially when you're going to be involved in a lot of close games. And he's made a lot of those kicks before. Let me add one other thing about Butker too, because I forgot to mention this. You're seeing a lot of kickers make these long-range kicks from 50 plus with ease. I remember the day when making a 50-yarder, 51, 52, 53-yarder, those were not always guaranteed. And I don't know exactly what the number is now, but you're seeing a lot of kickers make 53, 55, even 60-yarders with almost no problems. I'm not saying it's perfect. It's not. You still see some misses here and there, but it's not very often. And I know Sunday was a bad day for some kickers. We saw some blocks. The Chiefs even had a block on a PAT against the Giants. But we saw a couple of block sixes on Sunday happening in the span of 2 or 3 minutes. One from the Eagles and one from the Jets. But that's very rare. You don't see that often. Kickers in general are far better now. And Butker is better than what he's showing at the moment. So again, I do trust that he'll get better about it. I trust that the entire team, Kelce, Butker, I trust that, the frustrations they have, some of the inconsistencies you see, I trust that they'll get better. The only one I'm truly concerned with, to the point where I think it's an issue, is Jawan Taylor. But they have a solution in the fact that they've got Jalen Moore as a backup. So I think part of Travis Kelce's frustration, because he got in Jawan Taylor's face, did he not, in that week 1 game in Brazil? But I think once the Chiefs make that switch, and I think it's a matter of when, not if, and hopefully sooner rather than later, I think the offense will start to get better. And it'll be even more better when you have Xavier Worthy back, which is expected to be very soon. And then Rashee Rice, who you've got on the sideline for 3 more games. Once he comes back, I think this offense is going to be much better. So yeah, I mean, Kelce, he's a fiery guy. It's not his first time showing this kind of emotion before, but I trust that it'll all get better at the end of the day. Winning that game was a big one, not because you're beating a great team, but you just had to get in the win column. You could not afford to lose that game. You lose that game, today's podcast would be a much different podcast. We'd be talking about a lot of different issues right now. I do want to talk about some of the things going on around the NFL. We saw the Dolphins and the Bills. The Bills actually, had some issues in this one here. Was not necessarily a perfect game from the Bills, but they still came out with a win and had a great fourth quarter, scoring 10 points and coming away with a win, staying undefeated. The team that I said was the best team in the league coming into week 3, the Green Bay Packers, what happened to them? They fell to the Browns, giving them their first win of the season, 13-10. Jordan Love was kept in check. The entire Green Bay Packers offense kept in check. And Green Bay looked great the first 2 weeks, playing teams that made it far into the playoffs. The Lions had the number 1 seed last year, and the Commanders made it to the NFC title game last year. And the Packers, I wouldn't say they blew them out or dominated them, but they had complete control of those 2 games, not letting Detroit or Washington have any opportunity of coming back in those games. And for them to play this way against the Browns certainly was a shocker to me and a lot of other people as well. The Bengals against the Vikings. The Bengals did start 2-0, and they have all this confidence in Jake Browning because of what he's done before. Now, listen, I'm not ready to give up on the Bengals yet, but boy, they got their ass whooped in this one by the Vikings. Carson Wentz was that quarterback. But boy, who was that? Isaiah Rodgers. That guy had 2 defensive touchdowns. I mean, he was all over the place. That guy's winning NFC Defensive Player of the Week. No question about it. Because those 4 turnovers they committed, and if I'm not mistaken, isn't Jake Browning, isn't he right now leading the league in interceptions? And he hasn't played a whole lot this year. Yeah, he's got more interceptions than any quarterback right now. Joe Flacco and Geno Smith, as well as Tua and Trevor Lawrence, all have 4. But Jake Browning, who's only played 2 games, already ahead of those guys when it comes to interceptions. So hopefully Jake Browning can patch that up, because we've seen him do some good things back in 2023, and they came close to making the playoffs without Joe Burrow. And Joe Burrow might miss the entire year. At the earliest, he's expected to come back mid-December. So if the Bengals are still in contention, which is kind of a question mark right now, Burrow has a chance to give them a nice little push there. But until then, that's a football team. If you're going off the most recent game, which a lot of people do in the NFL, that is a concern for sure moving forward for the Bengals. Let me say this about the Eagles. I know the tush push is the one that gets talked about the most. And oh boy, do not show screenshots or any videos of Eagles players jumping early. Boy, Eagles fans get sensitive over that. I learned that the hard way on Twitter over the weekend. But listen, the Eagles are looking a lot like the Chiefs last year, where they're getting by. Maybe some penalties aren't being called that they should be called, whether you want to acknowledge it or not, Philly fans. But the Eagles squeezing by, all 1-possession wins, and they're benefiting from mistakes made by the other team. CeeDee Lamb in week 1, Travis Kelce last week, and the Rams with a colossal collapse in the second half when they got off to such a hot start and went radio silent the rest of the way. 2 blocked field goals by the Eagles in this one. The last one took back all the way for a touchdown. So if you're Philly, listen, nothing wrong with how you're playing now. Keep that going. Makes for exciting football at the end of the day, too. I do want to touch a little bit on the AFC West. The Raiders, they had some optimism after beating the Patriots in week 1. Since then, they have looked terrible. They lost to the Commanders 41-24. Now, remember last week when the Raiders played the Chargers on Monday Night Football, they were held to 9 points. The Raiders got 14 points in the fourth quarter of this game against the Commanders. Those are garbage time touchdowns. What was the score heading into the fourth quarter? just to check. It was 34-10. So, yeah, they made it a 10-point game with less than 4 minutes to go, and then Washington went in there and got a touchdown. By the way, Jaden Daniels did not play in this game. It was Marcus Mariota under center. Forgot to mention that. And Marcus Mariota had a couple of issues in this game as well with ball security, but he still came through and led the Commanders to a win. But when you look at the Raiders right now in terms of scoring, and again, keep in mind, they scored 2 garbage time touchdowns in the fourth quarter of this game. They're not a very good football team when it comes to scoring. They were second to last week, coming into week 3. Now they're 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. They're the 7th worst team when it comes to scoring. And again, they got 14 gimmies because the game was essentially wrapped up. You got to be able to beat the Raiders twice. And I say this because you're already down a couple of games in the divisional race because the Chargers are 3-0, and all 3 of those wins are against division rivals. So they're very well taken care of when it comes to tiebreaker situations for right now. But boy, this is a Raiders team. Yeah, sure, they're slightly ahead of the Chiefs in the standings. The Chiefs are behind because their one win is against the Giants, a non-conference team. The Raiders beat the Patriots. The Broncos, they're also 1-2. Who did the Broncos beat this year? They lost to the Colts last week. They lost to the Chargers on Sunday. Who did the Broncos beat this year? If I can find Denver on here, that'd be nice. There we go. Denver beat... No, that's right. They beat the Titans. That was Cam Ward's debut. And that was a game where the Broncos offense didn't necessarily look good either. They dealt with a lot of boo birds in that game. I do anticipate them to bounce back and have a great game against the Bengals on Monday Night Football coming up next week. But yeah, the reason the Chiefs are, for now, last place, and again, it's 3 weeks in, is because their one win is against a non-conference opponent. So the Chiefs definitely need to bounce back. They've got a couple of games against NFC opponents that are already in the books, and now they have a chance to start playing some teams in their conference, and soon in a couple of weeks in the division. So they'll have opportunities to right the ship playing some of those, regardless whether it's non-conference or conference teams. You got to start winning games because you're already behind the 8 ball, but they've got a chance to make up for that very soon. Let me just check and see any other news and notes from the NFL that I wanted to go over here. We've already gone over the tush push thing. I'm not going to go over it too much or really at all, other than we know it's going to get banned. I mean, it's going to happen this offseason. Yeah, I don't think there's really anything else that's worth really recapping. Yeah, I think we're good. I think we're good as far as the NFL goes. The Lions just scored a touchdown. I see it's 13-7. Did they miss a PAT or did they not attempt that yet? Because they're just showing Lions players on the sidelines. What's going on? Or they must be reviewing it. Yeah, that play is probably under review. Yeah, we'll see what happens. I'm going to go watch the rest of this Baltimore game. There we go. Now they're lining up for the PAT. Okay, they just confirmed the touchdown. But yeah, I'm going to go ahead and watch the rest of this Baltimore game because that is who Kansas City is going to be playing this Sunday. We'll see how the Ravens look coming out of this one. And obviously on Wednesday's podcast, we will preview and break down the game between the Chiefs and the Ravens. Also go over some other news and notes that come up with the Chiefs. I'm sure there will be more to react to when it comes to Xavier Worthy. So we will go over that. If you guys enjoyed this podcast on Facebook, YouTube, X, Instagram, please give it a like, share it with your friends, let them know about the Chiefs Zone podcast. Appreciate all of you guys who've been doing that over the last few weeks, especially in the early goings of the season. It's been a lot of fun talking about the Chiefs, good or bad, win or lose. Still have a lot of fun doing this podcast with you. What software or website do I use to look up stats and football history? A lot of different websites, Robert. ESPN, Pro Football Reference, Pro Football Focus, a lot of different options out there, and there are many more websites too, some good ones. But yeah, those are the ones I use the most. But yeah, that'll answer your question there. All right. That'll do it for this podcast. I'm Farzin Vasugian. Thank you all for joining me tonight on this episode of the Chiefs Zone Podcast. Enjoy the rest of your Monday. I will talk to you all Wednesday night. Take care.